Hi, John. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Great. I'm Bert, and this is Kristen.
How are you both doing?
Really
Doing
good.
great.
Really great.
I hope you don't mind. I wanted to start this off with a huge thank you.
Please tell me
So,
more.
yeah, right? So, I want to say a massive thank you to you and your wife Chrissy for being so open about fertility struggles and for pregnancy loss because my husband and I went through the same thing. Not the same thing, but something similar. We did two
Yeah.
rounds of IVF to get our miracle baby, and we experienced some pregnancy loss along the way. And I really commend you both because I think it's such an important conversation. And for both of you to put yourselves and your family out there like that, it meant a lot to everybody who's going through it to know we're not alone and there's strength in numbers.
Absolutely, and that's really a lot of the feedback that we have been getting through the past couple years of as we've shared, our journey with people, and obviously we have two beautiful babies that just light up our lives all the time. But we've also lost a pregnancy, and we're looking forward to another baby on the way. But those ups and downs, a lot of people don't hear about them because people feel a sense of shame and they don't want to share all of that. But I think Chrissy's been really willing to share it, and the benefit of that has been what we just heard from you is that people feel less alone when they hear someone that they look up to talking about them going through the same struggle that lots of other people are going through around the world, and don't feel necessarily empowered to share those things. But I think Chrissy sharing it has really empowered a lot of other people to feel like they can talk openly about these things that they may have kept quiet before.
Did the two of you guys discuss in advance, like what is going to be said or what is off limits and what's a green light for both of you guys? Or do you read it on Twitter just like the rest of us?
I think we know each other so well now that we don't need to plan things out and be so calculated about it. Chrissy knows who she is. She knows how she likes to communicate to her audience, and she's so good at it that we don't need to like vet it with each other. Sometimes she'll be like, "What do you think if I say it this way? What do you think if I say it that way?" And I just give her input, but she knows what she's doing. She's so smart, and she's such a great communicator, and she's funny and clever and all those things that people love about her. So she doesn't need a lot of help from me, and I'm not as cool and clever and funny as she is on social media. But I have my own voice, and I'm being myself as well. And I think we are comfortable with who we are as just being ourselves, and I think our fans know what to expect from us, and I think we found a nice voice and nice rhythm for our own social media accounts.
Yeah, when it comes to social media, I love for somebody who's, in such the spotlight like you guys are. I mean, has it made your career better or has it like been worse? Because we've had this debate a lot on the air recently because of the
Yeah.
vitriol and negativity. So I'd love to know from your all's perspective, like, could you do without it or are you glad you have it?
There's certainly the good and the bad, I think,
Yeah.
with every aspect of being a celebrity, though, because just the fact that you're known and you're famous means you're exposed to so much. That means you're exposed to all the love that people want to give you, but you're also exposed to negativity. And when it comes to social media, we are able to access both the positive and the negative feedback so readily. And if you make the choice to do that, which some artists don't do it, like they don't look at their mentions. They don't look at what other people are saying about them, which is kind of a healthy way to live.
Yeah.
Um, but if you choose to do that, if you choose to pay attention to what other people are saying, you hear everything. I've been checking my mentions because my new album's out, and I want to hear what people think about it. And most of the feedback has been amazingly positive. But when you expose yourself to what's positive, you also got to account for the fact that there are going to be some negative feedback as well. And there are times when people can pile on and be mean about it. And, you just, that's life, that's part of being in the spotlight. And so I think net for me, I'm happy there's social media because it gives me a chance to share who I am unfiltered by a reporter, unfiltered by any other gatekeepers. We get to tell our own story. We get to present the parts of our lives that we want to present. And I think social media has been powerful in that way. And I also feel like I learn more about the world from social media. There's so many really interesting writers I've learned about through Twitter, or people who are interesting reporters that have something important to say about the world. A lot of that I've learned about through social media, and I've learned about music that way. And I think there's so many ways for us to learn and grow from using social media, but you got to figure out how to filter through all the negativity and the bad sides of social media to get to the good stuff.
Hanging out with John Legend today. Is there one piece of your personal life that either you or Chrissy shared that you regret now sharing?
Oh, I'm sure, but the thing about social media is that even when it feels like a big deal in the moment, like it also just passes more quickly now. So like any momentary embarrassment or thing, you're like, maybe I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
Most of the time, it just disappears so fast that people's memories, they move on, and there's a new thing trending within the next few hours.
Right.
So I think everything feels like the biggest deal at the time, and feels like, oh, this is so embarrassing. But then people move on, and then life goes on.
The new album's called Legend, which we're going to get into here in just a couple of seconds. And if you're like Kristen and I, and you hate when an artist puts out an album and it only has 7 songs on it, you're gonna love this, because Legend has 83 songs.
It has 24. It's 2 acts, and each act is 12 songs. And I wrote about 83 songs for it, but I very kindly did not force everyone to listen to all 83. But for me, whenever I'm writing, I always overwrite, so I always write way more than I'm going to put out, and that way it helps me to narrow down, on the really best ones and ones I really want people to hear when I have all these choices to choose from. So we had over 80 songs we wrote for this project, and we narrowed it down to our favorite 24. We split them into 2 acts because I felt like, sometimes people listen to music, and they want certain moods for the music they're listening to. And so the first act is more upbeat, it's more sexy, more lively, more of a Saturday night vibe, as I call it. And then the second act is more Sunday morning. It's more introspective and spiritual and romantic and intimate.
Yeah, there's one song in particular on the second act, and it's so touching about your love of Chrissy and how you don't love her the same way you do. You love her more now. And just
Yeah.
because of everything you guys have gone through. And that song, so I full disclosure. So I listened to Act 1 while I was getting my teeth cleaned today, and it was amazing.
Uh-huh.
By the way, Dr. O'Shea says you have a beautiful smile. And
Oh, wonderful.
yes.
I'll tell my dentist.
And then as I'm driving home, I'm listening to the second act, and I couldn't help but wonder, because you pour so much into your songwriting and your lyrics, and listening to that one that is definitely an ode to Chrissy.
hmm
Do you feel like grief has made you love differently?
Yes, and I think that's why that song means so much to us. It's called "I Don't Love You Like I Used to," and the title makes it sound like it's a breakup song, but it's not.
Uh-huh.
The whole idea behind the song is that when you grow with someone, you go through all these different challenges and experiences with that person, and if you're with someone for a long time, it's inevitable that you're going to have grief, you're going to have loss that you experience together. You're going to have to lift each other up and support each other, and I think that makes your relationship stronger, and you love them in a more deep and more tested way than you did when you first met. And as much as you may be very attracted to someone you first meet, maybe infatuated, maybe you think you're in love, but it's probably more lust than love at the beginning. When you're with them for a long time, like that's what develops, is that deep, tested love, and that's what the song is about.
Yeah, I think it's funny that Kristen focused on like the second part of the album, and
Yeah.
I was all about the sexy part of the very first part, man.
Honestly, that it might be like, not to be stereotypical, it might be the way men and women kind of
Yes.
approach it differently. But yeah, I think that's it. And I think the second act is more about being in that committed situation where you're intimate with each other, you know each other's secrets, you know everything about each other, and you're more tested and challenged as well. So yeah, I wanted all of that to be reflected in the album, because all of that is who I am as an artist, and that's why we split them into 2 acts and gave people, this much new music, because it felt like I wanted to present all of this, but kind of divide it up into sections.
Now, don't get me wrong. All She Wanna Do, especially with Sweetie, like that's a banger. Like I know we
That's
have
a
a song.
jam.
Yes,
That's a jam.
that is a
It's really good.
jam. I will give you that. I know we always have like a song in the summer, but I'm gonna go ahead and call it right now. That's the song of the fall.
There we go. It's like summery, and we released it in the summer, but it's
Right.
growing and growing, and I
Right.
think its peak will be in the fall for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
I wasn't ex-
Absolutely.
I wasn't exactly sure how to structure this, but I in your writing, and as we're talking about sort of the beginning of the album and then the second half also, are there just times you feel sexier than other times? Like you feel sexy and you're like, oh, I'm gonna write a song because I'm feeling sexy. And then there are other times where like, man, I'm just feeling so deeply in love that now is the time to sit down.
Well, a lot of times it's inspired by the moment when we're creating, and sometimes I'll be in collaboration with another writer, and they'll play like a cool guitar loop that they created, or they'll play like a cool beat that they created, and sometimes that music will send me into a certain direction lyrically based on the feeling that I get with that music. And then once I figure out what I want to talk about, then I'm really informed by my own experiences, but it may not be what I'm experiencing right in that moment. But it's inspired by the feeling that I get from the music. And then I go in my database of life stories and experiences, and I'm like, well, this is what I'm thinking about when I hear this music. This is what I'm thinking about when I hear these chords. Here's what direction it sends me. Here's what those melodies feel like to me. And here's what I want to say to express this mood that I'm in. And so it's not necessarily, oh, I'm feeling this way today. It's more like the music makes me feel a certain way. And then I think of stories that fit that music.
Interesting. John Legend hanging out with the Bert Show today.
When it comes to your collaborations, you have multiple on this double album Legend. Do those come organically? Like you're at Beyonce's birthday party and you run into somebody and you're like, hey, we need to do something together. Or are you like calling people up and seeking them out?
Well, a lot of times it'll be calling them up and seeking them out because I'm a fan of their work, or I've run into them and said, we got to do something together. Let's figure something out. The Saweetie collaboration, I literally ran into her at the Beverly Hills Hotel, and I knew her manager, and he had booked a show with me before. And he came up and said hi, and then he had introduced Saweetie to me, and I didn't really know her face right away, but I knew some of her music, and I literally had just been talking about a song of hers with my wife the day before, and I was like, oh my God, we were just talking about you. We love your work, and we should do something together. And then my A&R played them a few songs, and she fell in love with All She Wanna Do,
Mm-hmm.
and she wanted to be a part of that one. And of course, she made it so much cooler and just added so much energy and electricity to the song. And so that was really by chance running into her, and the coincidence of having just talked about her and saying, well, let's try to get a song together. But then sometimes it's more calculated, where I've written a song and I know the exact person who I think would be great on it. We reach out to them. Sometimes I know them. Sometimes it's just, almost a cold call, but it's not really a cold call coming from me. And then we reach out and say, we have this song. We'd love for you to be a part of it, and we send it to them and see what they think. And more often than not, they say, yeah, let's do it. And
Wait. More often than not, who had the audacity to turn you down?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say. I'm not gonna put anybody on the spot. But sometimes it's just a timing thing. It's like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
about to put my own album out right now. I want to focus on that. Sometimes, they just don't click with the song in the way that you think they will. But most of the time, they say yes and do their thing on it. And we have some amazing guests on this album. In addition to Saweetie, we have Jasmine Sullivan, Money Long, Rick Ross, Jid, Jada Kingdom, Janae Aiko, and Ty Dolla $ign, Rhapsody, Lettucey. Just some amazing artists who are so good at what they do and add so much flavor to the album.
Do you recall the first artist that called you to do some kind of collaboration where you're like, oh
yeah.
shit, I can't believe blank is calling me?
Well, early on in my career, a lot of my collabs came through working with Kanye, because he was my executive producer on my album. I was signed to his production company, and then he was producing for other artists at the same time. And so a lot of times he would, as a way of marketing his new artist that he had just signed, he would, put me on projects that he was working on with other artists. And one of the earliest ones was with Jay-Z. We did Encore with Jay-Z, which, is a pinch me kind of moment. I'm a big fan of Jay-Z's and have loved his work for a long time. So getting a chance as a young artist to work on his project was like incredible. But the very first time I was on a major album, I just played piano. I didn't sing on it, but I played piano on Everything Is Everything by Lauryn Hill. And this was back in '98 when I was still a student in college. But one of my friends was friends with Lauren, and she introduced us, and I played a couple songs for Lauren, and she asked me to sing on that particular record. And that was a pinch me moment because if you remember back in the late '90s, the Fugees had massive success
Oh
with The
God, yeah.
Score
Yeah.
back in '96. And then everyone was anticipating Lauryn Hill's solo debut. And she made this incredible album, Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. And I'm just a kid in college and I got to be a part of that. So that was pretty incredible.
Wow. Do you ever get nervous at all working with other artists? Is there any kind of like adrenaline nervousness about that, or is that past you now?
It's past me now. I probably was a little nervous early on, but I have so much experience making music, and even before I was making it at a high level with big artists, making major records. I was making music growing up. I was singing and playing in church. I was singing and playing in school, musical theater, all kinds of talent shows and everything. So I had so much experience being on stage, so much experience making music that I never felt like intimidated musically in any situation, even if I'm working with someone who's a much bigger star than I am early in my career. I always knew that I was a real musician and I could play, I could sing, I understand harmony, I understand how to collaborate with people, I understand songwriting, and it made it so I felt like I could walk into any room and work with anybody. And the
Yeah.
thing about music that's cool is I've worked with country artists, I've worked with pop artists, hip hop artists, reggae artists. Music is universal. Latin artists, music is universal, and I feel comfortable in any musical setting because I figure that we can find common ground musically with just about any type of artist.
Yeah, Bert, you just asked an EGOT winner if he ever gets nervous.
I know,
It's
right?
funny because one of the crowd favorites for my new album is a song called "Nervous,"
Yeah.
but it's about being in love and still getting butterflies with the person that you love, and it's definitely one of the favorites from the album and probably a future single. I'm guessing based on the reaction that we're getting from the fans.
You did a fantastic job at the Emmys this past week, by the way,
Thank
with your
you.
performance during the In Memoriam. I was wondering if there was anything that us viewers didn't see behind the scenes while you were there, if you saw like a cool interaction or something.
Well, there were so many cool interactions. Chrissy and I were just starstruck the whole time because
Yeah.
we consume a lot of this prestige TV, and so we like, oh, I watched your limited series. Oh, I watched your show, and we're like recognize everybody. We've watched most of their shows, and we had a really good time just seeing some of our favorites at the Emmys. We sat with a great group. We were with Elle Fanning and Taron Egerton and some really talented actors, and we just got to be fans pretty much.
Did you
Yeah.
have a highlight? Because I mean, there were so many great speeches this year.
Oh, I loved Shirley Ralph. I've loved her for a long time, and she's one of those, actors who can really sing.
Heck
And
yeah.
she always has been. She came up through musical theater as well, and so when she got up there and sang, that was pretty powerful and beautiful. And I love her getting recognized this late in her career. She's been making uh, uh, just great art for a long time, and having her be recognized in this moment at this stage in her career is pretty incredible. And the show she's a part of, Abbott Elementary, is such a
Hmm.
heartwarming show. It's about teachers, and we don't appreciate teachers enough. We don't show them enough love, and particularly during the pandemic, I think we've seen how valuable and important teachers are. And then for her to win this award based on her playing a veteran teacher, I think it was pretty beautiful. And then her speech was incredible.
Man, John, thank you so much for your time today, man. I wish every
Thank
interview
you.
you make it so easy, dude.
You
So
do.
easy. The album is out now, and like I said, it has 173 tracks on it. So you're gonna
24. It's about an hour and 20 minutes of your life, and I think it'll be a very nice hour and 20 minutes.
It will be.
Uh-huh.
I tweeted out yesterday that look, have your significant other listen to the first half of Legend about 90 minutes before you get home. John is doing all the work for you. All you got to do is show up and shut up. That's it. John's
Don't mess it up. Don't mess it up.
John Legend, great talking to you, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care, guys.
Thank you. You
Bye.
too.
The Bert Show.